foremost, we wanted to let you know that our student athletes are doing well. We've been reaching out to them just like this via Zoom or via phone call to make sure they're all doing well. Our coaches have been in contact with them constantly. They are continuing to be students. So we talk about being student athletes. They are being students. They are going to class virtually. It's a little bit different than it had been in the past, but they're continuing to move forward, and your support is continuing to make that happen. So we thank you for all that you've done, you're continuing to do, and your continued support. I know you're here to listen to coaches, so I'm going to back away, but thank you for all that you do. We appreciate your support, and if you're still interested in supporting the drive for 4,900, please do. You can go on our website at beachathleticfund.com, and on the top right corner, there's an invest button, and you can invest in our continued support of our student athletes. So thank you, and go Beach.
All right, let's have an opening statement here from Coach Valenzuela. Coach, can you give us a kind of an opening statement on what you guys have been doing the last few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. And good morning to everybody. Thank you for getting up on this rainy morning here, but obviously different times for everybody. We're still, it's new to everybody. We're still trying to figure out just different ways to kind of, keep the development rolling and keep the relationships going. And I think that's huge with how we do things. And myself, Coach Peters is on the call as well. And, I think that's the biggest part right now is that everybody's kind of in limbo, especially the players. And you're talking, 18 to 22-year-olds and their season gets taken away from them. And it's nobody's fault. It is what it is. And so how do we go about, continuing the development phase? How do we go about, they're at home. And so, we have to kind of prioritize, what's important at this time, obviously being with family and that every day, but also just the newness of, how the academic part of this thing is working. So now everything's online, everything is, via Zoom and all this. So it's new for everybody. And, from the baseball part of it, I mean, that's secondary and even, longer down the list, with it. So what we're doing as a coaching staff right now is just making sure that we're communicating with our players on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and, as a group and individually. And so, our coaches have done a tremendous job of just making sure everybody's doing okay, making sure everybody's staying healthy during this time, making sure they're they have everything that they need. And I think that's the most important part, and obviously when you're talking about the baseball part of it, that's different as well. And that's up in the air as well, just because, with this NCAA ruling here, and then the draft, we actually don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to be 5 rounds. They say, it could be 5, it could be 10, or it could be a full draft. I just got off the phone with the scout right now that said there's a chance that it could go back to 40 rounds and be the whole thing. And that would be a lot different for us than just having 5 rounds. And so there's just a lot of things that are up in the air, but, we just take it in and it is what it is. And, it's when it comes to the NCAA and the ruling, I know it's difficult on a lot of different angles, but I will say this, I felt like it was for the best of the student athlete. And when you make decisions and the NCAA makes decisions that's best for the student athlete, then you can't go wrong. And so, again, it's all new to us, but, we're going to take it and we're going to continue to get better and do what we can. And so I think during this time, where we're going to become stronger is that the development of our players, the more individual time that we're able to talk to them and build that relationship moving forward. Because remember, we're still a new staff, and we're still getting to know our players and still getting to know what they're about and how to get them to go and how to get their development moving forward. And so that's important to us. And so now it's just a great time for us to continue to do that and build those relationships and make them even stronger. For that way, when we come back in the fall, we've gotten that much better. And so, that's kind of a long-winded what we're doing these days. We're trying to stay busy as well. I'm home. I got, my kids are got 3 young ones, and my wife. We're just trying to stay busy and, and not go crazy here.
Coach, can you guys tell us a little bit about, you had a crazy trip there when everything went down. You guys were on your way to New Orleans. Can you give us kind of a peek into what that was like, getting ready for Tulane, and then, of course, having to turn around and come right back?
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be an exciting series. Yeah, two of the best teams in the country, and our first road trip. And I felt like that was an important trip for us, just in the sense that we played a lot of home games, and you started to, there was a lot of comfort with our group, and so this was a great opportunity for us to grow as a team and as a program, and play, get on an airplane and put on our suits and get into New Orleans and play in a hostile environment that's a regional atmosphere. They were 15-2. They had one of the best pitching staffs in the country. And so we were going to have a very good matchup there. It was that Wednesday. We left on Thursday morning early, but it was that Wednesday night that we were, me and Andy just were on the phone, a few times that evening, and he was on the phone with President Connolly as well, and doctors. And we definitely did our part in making sure that if we were going to go on the trip, that it was safe and we had the approval and that kind of thing. So, our guys were competitive. We had a couple conversations with our players as well, just to make sure, hey, if you weren't comfortable in any of this stuff, you can have that conversation, and you don't have to. There was no pressure at all. But they were hungry. They wanted to go, just like all of us. And so, we had an early flight. We left Long Beach at about 4:25 in the morning that Thursday, and we got on a plane and flew out there. And very interesting, because when we get on those long flights, a lot of times I don't have my phone on me. I'm, trying to get into scouting reports and trying to get ready for that, and my coaches, and we sit together and break down, who we're going to face, and those type of things. And this time, I had my cell phone and did the Wi-Fi thing, and just started seeing, things popping up on Twitter as we were in the air, as well as having a conversation with Travis Jewett, who was the head coach at Tulane. And even at the beginning of the flight, you're talking about a 3.5-hour flight. Even at the beginning, Travis Jewett, the head coach, was still saying, "Hey, we're good," And so then during that whole time talking with Andy, and then all of a sudden seeing Twitter and seeing these things pop up, and series canceled and conferences canceling the weekends, and all of a sudden I'm going, oh my goodness. And then about probably the last hour and a half was when Travis Jewett from Tulane said, "Hey, this doesn't look good," and then we finally got the word. So I mean, we were about an hour left of the flight already, looking for flights to come back home once we landed. So it was pretty crazy. And we landed in New Orleans, and Rob's with us as well, and so we got all of our bags, and then Rob addressed the team, and we just chatted, and so then we finally got flights. I think it was about 5 hours later. We were going to jump on a flight, maybe even 6 hours. It got delayed an hour, and then so we had a couple hours. We went out and grabbed a quick lunch. We drove by Bourbon Street, and literally just got out of the bus, took a quick picture, 5 minutes, got back on the bus, and drove back to the airport. So it was I don't know if it's ever happened ever, but just to fly from LAX to New Orleans to have lunch and then come back the same day. That's what we did.
Rob, can you tell us a little bit about the administrative decision that goes into what's going on behind the scenes while these guys are getting ready to prepare a game?
Yeah, what's incredible is we wanted, obviously, to play the game in the series. We knew that it was going to be a big series, but as Coach was mentioning, some really interesting things happened while we were on that flight. So I'm usually not a Wi-Fi guy on a flight. I like to read books or listen to a book. But I just had this feeling to start looking at what's going on ESPN. We started seeing the ACC basketball tournament canceled, the SEC tournament canceled. Coach texted me from the back of the plane to the front of the plane. And so I reached out to the Tulane athletic director, and he confirmed via text, not only was the series canceled, but the American Athletic Conference was ceasing spring sports. And that happened all while we were over Texas in the flight. So at that moment, I think there's a little bit of turbulence, but I just walked back and started talking to Coach on the back of the plane. And, Ryan Day was there too, our director of ops. And that's when we started reaching back out to staff here that had better connection than we did on an airplane. But we knew we needed to get back as quickly as possible. The situation was just changing so quickly and literally while we were in the air. But we had limited technological capabilities because you're completely reliant on Southwest Airlines Wi-Fi being connected. So we went through that process, and so our staff here started making contacts in addition to our director of ops to try and figure out the travel. And then as we landed, we were literally sitting at the baggage claim and getting information from Andy Fee, from President Connolly and others via meeting. And the decision was pretty simple. We need to put the safety and well-being of our student athletes at the forefront. And so that's what we did. Coach Valenzuela and I talked, and the idea was, let's get back as quickly as we can. And we were sitting there going, is an airport really the safest place to be when we're talking about the spread of COVID-19? And so we thought, it would be good. Let's just get the guys out without having to put them in an undue safety risk. And let's get them out, and let's get a lunch, and let's try and get our minds off of this really strange, awkward, unique situation that we're in. And obviously disappointing for the team and all of us because we wanted to see that series. We wanted to see the season play. But behind all that, we just have to stick with our core values. And we're all in this for our student athletes. And that's exactly how our coaches approached it, and that's how we approached it together as a team.
All right, Rob, thanks very much. Let's get back to Coach Valenzuela and Coach Peters and Coach Costanza, whichever one of you guys wants to jump in on this one. But we've heard a lot about, it's been a hot topic, seniors getting their eligibility back. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see that going forward and what the discussion is around the country?
Yeah, I'll take that. I love our seniors. I mean, the fact that we, could possibly get these guys back for another year is huge for us. And, they were the staple of what we were able to do moving forward. We had a lot of great leadership, but those seniors, man, I mean, they really took it upon themselves to get this thing right and have a positive atmosphere. And so, look, I want all of our guys to chase their dream and to play professional baseball and do all of that. And I hope they have that opportunity. I really do. I hope that our seniors, can sign professionally, get drafted, and chase their dream. But, if we're lucky enough to get those guys back, that just makes us stronger, not only on the baseball field, but off the field and in the clubhouse, because they're just they're good kids. They work hard, and they want to win. Not only on the baseball field, but they want to do good things off the field and in the classroom. So I don't know, coaches. I don't, Petey and Dan, I don't want to add to that, but you got to take off your mute button though.
I'll jump in, and I want to kind of go backwards just a little bit before I go into that, but just talk about how when we were in the air going to Tulane and with so much uncertainty and so many questions, I just wanted to say that I thought our administration, including President Connolly and Andy Fee on the phone, was so comforting to us, so mature, so wise, really helped us in a lot of ways. Having Rob Clark on the flight with us was very comforting, made us feel really good. I thought they did a really good job. Ryan Day, the day that Ryan Day had on our flight was incredible. To be able to get all those flights, return everybody safely and with the short amount of turnaround was just phenomenal. And I thought Coach Valenzuela was, as sharp as it could be and exactly what we needed to do and all those uncertain times. And I wish that you all and all of our fans could have seen how well our players themselves handled it. So much uncertainty, so many questions. They just put their trust and their faith in everything that we were doing. And like I said, it was great to have Rob with us to kind of be a pillar of strength for the boys in such uncertain times. So thank you for you guys. Ryan Day, he's not on this call, but gosh, he did a great job and it was phenomenal. So our leadership in that time was really good, which includes our players in that scenario. So I just wanted to say I was really proud of how they handled all of that stuff. And then conversely, I wish that everybody that is a fan of our program could have seen there's no other way to put it than the devastation of when we announced to the team that the season was over. And I'm just going to kind of put you guys into, what it feels like to be in a uniform. A lot of you guys will remember from your past, but that last game usually happens when you're on the field, you're playing for something, you're in a conference tournament or a regional or a super regional or something, and you lose the game, and that's the end of your season. And it comes with so much emotion, and you never expect it, you never see it coming. But inevitably, you're going to, usually lose the last game unless you're our men's volleyball team and you always win a national championship. But for most of the time, you lose your last game, and the emotion of losing and it being the last of your game of the season, and your seniors, it might be their last time playing. It's usually a tearful event. And we had to do that in the locker room with our team as we announced it, and as mature and wise and savvy as our team is, we had all of those same emotions, but it was in the locker room. Like, our players were devastated. Our coaching staff was devastated. We were in tears. Like, there was a lot of heavy emotion, and it was so hard to go through that with the boys. And I know what, and there was still such confusing times then. We didn't really know what we were into. There was a lot of, how can this be happening and all that stuff. So it was so emotional. Our players were phenomenal. They were so great. I value those guys. We cherish our relationships that we got with those guys in such a short amount of time. And then transition that into the good news of now we get to do that all over again, and with our seniors. And like Coach said, we love our seniors. I think that this, there's still a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of ways that this could go now that we're trying to manage how to have 5 classes on one roster, because everyone's coming back, plus you got your incoming class. So there's a lot that goes into that. But the good news is that we had such a good team. We had such good relationships with our players that now we're excited to have those back. And I think that could look like a really ugly scene had we not had a good team. And so let me paint this picture. Let's say you didn't have a good team and you were a coaching staff, and you would basically want to use this as okay, we weren't very good this year. Seniors, sorry, you guys can shuffle your way out of here. It's time to look to the future, and let's make some room. Let's pinch our roster on the backside, because we want to transition into something bigger and better. That wasn't us. Whether we were successful or not, that wasn't us. We were doing the exact opposite, fellas. We had a great year. We love you guys. We're really close. We want to make sure that everyone on the backside, seniors and draftable juniors or whatever, you guys are welcome to come back here. We're excited to have you back, because we built such strong relationships. We built such a strong culture, and we were having some fairly good success at the time. So we wanted all those guys to come back, and that's a blessing for us in so many ways. And a year or two in a culture is typically where you're going to see a lot more growth and ascension. And we wanted those guys to be back because they're such good people. They're such good leaders. Now they're models for a lot of the incoming guys, because they know our system and the Coach Valenzuela way a little bit more. So all those things should grow, and we'll get better as we go with that. And now for us, it's how are we going to kind of weave in, instead of weeding people out, we want to be able to weave people into how we're going to manage a bigger roster now and more guys. And the NCAA has given us a little bit of some leeway with the seniors, which is great. So that was a whirlwind of emotions for us. But again, I wanted to say kudos to our administration staff, Coach Valenzuela, Ryan Day, and then I wanted to paint the picture of how emotional that was for our boys, for you guys. So thanks again for everything.
So, Coach, if you guys don't have anything to add to that, we're going to go to a little bit more positive and talk about what you guys have been doing on the recruiting trail. And we've seen some things pop up. I know you can't talk about individuals, but you can just tell us how that's going and how you're doing that in the current state of the world.
Yeah, and Danny's on here. He's our recruiting coordinator, and so we've been, we're trying our best to kind of we've met, virtually every single day, and we're breaking it all down. So we're trying as a staff as well to stay busy and how we could, and how we can continue to move forward. And I think one of the biggest things is obviously roster management becomes a big factor right now. Not only that, just looking, kind of down the road a little bit, with the decision that's being made, everybody essentially, has their year back, right? Freshmen are freshmen again, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So now you're adding a freshman class. So you basically have 2 freshman classes in. So now there's a lot of rethinking and just kind of reevaluating, where we are and where we're going to be. And so it affects a little bit of not only, the current team a little bit, but it also affects, our recruits and guys that we've had committed. And so, we've really had to kind of put our heads together as where, which direction in certain ways that we need to go. And we're not, you're never done recruiting. You're never stopping. This is just another moment for us to continue to, build relationships with not only our current team, but the guys that are coming in and our recruits and committed guys. And so, that's been good too. And Danny does such a good job with when it comes to numbers, and we kind of piece this thing together because it's a science, having 11.7 scholarships and 27 guys on max on scholarship and only 25%, there's the lowest. There's just a lot that goes into it. And so, it's been a challenge, but then again, we're always working. I think that's the biggest part of this thing is okay. So, we can't go out and watch kids in their high school year, senior year or junior year. Summer may be, out as far as recruiting. We already have there's a recruiting ban. There's a recruiting ban in the NCAA till the end of this month, and it's going to be longer, I'm sure. And so there may not be summer ball. So we have to become creative in how the recruiting moves forward if we can't go out and recruit. Luckily enough, we've kind of gotten ahead a little bit in our recruiting classes. And so, I think we'll be fine. But then again, how are we going to evaluate during this time, and how are we going to do things? And obviously with the NCAA and these the standards and all these, giving the guys another year, which is great. We just have to just kind of think about it and reevaluate how we're going to move forward when it comes to recruiting. So, Danny, I don't know if you want to add anything to that as well.
Yeah, obviously when I talk to parents and families and kind of get into the recruiting thing with them, when you talk about scholarships and numbers and roster management, you explain to them it's like a always evolving puzzle that, the corners are changing, all the pieces are changing all the time. One person getting drafted can influence two people that are coming in and even beyond that, with how you try and fill this thing. And obviously Coach and PD do they have more experience than anybody. I can't think of two coaches that have more experience put to their old. So there's a whole bunch of experience in there. But to be able to put all of our heads together and come up with a plan, the hard part is now with all this young recruiting that everyone's seeing, you're putting a plan together for up to 4 and 5 years out. You're recruiting all 4 high school classes and then a JC class every year, trying to find guys that we feel are going to fit into our program and are going to be good fits for us as coaches and Blair Field and that are going to be proud to wear Dirtbags across their chest. So it's a very exclusive group of kids that we're looking for. And so now that we're not able to go out and recruit, what are things that we're doing to make sure that we're taking advantage of this time and getting ahead, and when you're in the middle of a season and when you're at practice every day and when you're doing all those things, sometimes it's difficult to give some of those young recruits, number one, to communicate with them. We can't call them, they have to call us. So, it's hard to schedule time around our families and our players to make enough time to talk to those guys. But now we got all day, every day. So it's making sure that we're being forward enough and working hard enough to talk to those young recruits to build these relationships with them so that when we are able to see them again, we have a leg up on anybody who maybe wasn't utilizing this time properly. I don't know if you guys have followed. We've had a couple commits in the last week from some of these young classes, and that's a reflection of all of us taking the time to build relationships with these kids and these families, and more importantly, figuring out what buttons to push to make sure that they're comfortable becoming a part of this program. And I think this pandemic has helped some of that, because truthfully, parents and families, there's a little bit of panic, like, oh, now rosters are getting bigger, there's more classes, there may not be as much room. So if my son really wants to go to Long Beach, we can't wait anymore. We have to jump at this opportunity. And so we've kind of pushed that button a little bit, which I think to our credit has worked with some, but also not worked with others. The ones that it should work for, it has worked. And so we're pretty excited about that. And, like Coach was saying, we don't exactly recruit one class at a time. We go out and watch as many games as we can. And when we see a player that we like, we go and get them. That's, we're, I'm not going to say selfish, but we're not very patient in that regard, which I feel is a good thing. When we see good players, we want to go and get them. So up until this point, we had done a really good job of building an elaborate class of what would be sophomores, the 22 class. And I think that we were on the fence with a couple big time guys in Southern and Northern California. And we were able to push the right buttons and have got some recent commitments, which was pretty awesome. And we feel like that class is rounding out pretty well. Obviously, the class that is juniors, the 21 class, we had been recruiting since we got the job, and we were able to put together a pretty good class there as well. And it's crazy to think that we're moving on to sophomores and freshmen at this point. But when you do your homework, and on top of that, I'll backtrack a little bit, but how important it is to build relationships with high school coaches and travel ball coaches, both in the area and all over California, because during this time, they're our biggest eyes. They're still out doing bullpens with guys. They're still at indoor facilities working out. They're still hitting. They're still getting stronger. And so, even though we can't go out, if we've built really, really good relationships in the communities, and all over California, we're still getting really good information on players that we're recruiting or players that we need to be recruiting. And I think that during this time, we can utilize the phone, watching video on Twitter, watching video that is sent to us, communicating with coaches and people in our network to make sure that we're on the right kids, and then utilizing this time to build relationships and really teach them about our program and really sell what we do from a development standpoint.
So I want to answer a couple questions that are in here. So first, Lisa sent us one. Oh, let me see if somebody's on mute here. So first, Lisa sent us one that says, are you aware if any students, athletes, coaches, or support staff have tested positive for COVID-19? And Lisa, to our knowledge, no one has tested positive at this point. So good news there that everybody in the Beach family right now is staying healthy. And then another one here for Coach from Carla. Coach, how do returnees affect your scholarships moving forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's different. I think number one, the seniors. So the NCAA has basically, everybody gets a year back, but the seniors don't count on your overall roster. So you have a 35-man roster, and any seniors that come back that had their last year of eligibility basically taken away from this shortened season, they're able to come back, and they don't count on that 35-man roster. So you're going to have, different programs have different amounts. I mean, we have 7, and so if all 7, come back, you're looking at, 42 guys. Another program could have 2 seniors, and so they would be playing with 37 if their 2 seniors came back. As far as the scholarship for those guys, so the NCAA ruling was this. So at whatever scholarship those seniors were on, they can get that scholarship back, but they can't get more. Otherwise, it'll count towards your 11.7. So if somebody was on 50%, we can give them 50%, and it wouldn't count against our 11.7. But if we gave them 60%, it would count against our 11.7. Now, again, this is the NCAA left it up to each institution, because you're talking, now you're talking, money that wasn't, accounted for ahead of time. So what that means is, I mean, I was thinking of St. Mary's, the other day. I mean, you're talking $65,000 at a school like that. So, if they were to have, 7 seniors and 5 of them were on scholarship, and 5 of them were on 75%, you can imagine the type of money you're talking about that administration. And not to say that ours are pennies. I mean, it's a lot of money that we definitely weren't accounted for, and that we got to, if these seniors come back, some of them may get drafted. Some of them may sign a free agent, free agent to play professional baseball. And so, that could change. We just don't know what that is. But as far as the next class, imagine it this way, that this is more of a 3-4 year down the road type of deal, because now you got freshmen that were current on the team are freshmen again. And now you got a new class coming in, a whole new class coming in. That's a pretty big class of freshmen and a couple of junior college players. So you're basically having to stretch 5 years, 5 different classes in there. And it makes it definitely has made it difficult. And we're not the only ones. We're not saying that, it's any harder on us than anybody else, because everybody's in the same boat. And, what I've done is, I've had a lot of phone calls from coaches, and we've kind of just, been chatting and trying to figure out how, you've had some very difficult conversations, and that's never easy and that's not fun, but it is what it is, and we're in these times, and you have to just adapt to it and move forward. And so, it definitely affects how we do some things, but we'll figure it out, and we'll make sure that the players are taken care of. And so again, that's how that kind of pieces together with the seniors, and then with the current guys on the team, and we're just hopeful that that we could I know that Administrator Rob and they're doing a great job, and really trying to get this thing figured out and squared away. And this is a team effort, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And we've always had the student athletes, first and foremost at the top of the list. And so we're going to do everything we can in our power to make sure everybody's taken care of, and move forward in a positive direction for sure.
Hey, Rob, can we ask you a little bit about the scholarship number? So as the leader of the Beach Athletic Fund, can you talk to us a little bit about what that's going to do for fundraising and what you guys are going to be looking at extra?
Yeah, the reality is this is an unprecedented time in college athletics. I think if you look globally, we're all wondering what this is going to happen economically beyond athletics. As you look in the world of institutional support and NCAA athletics, we know that there's going to be a budget reduction. And that's not just Long Beach State, it's across the board. We've heard of some schools in the Big West already making layoffs. So this is a scary time. So in the reality of all this, there's no time more that we've needed support than now. And putting our student athletes first and foremost. Our scholarship support costs about $4 million a year, and the additional support that we've looked at, assuming every senior student athlete comes back for all sports, would be roughly $275,000 in addition to our $4 million. So we need support more than ever, and that's going to take not just one or two people stepping up. That's going to take a lot of people that can step up to do that. And that's a big part of why we started the drive to 4,900, to get 4,900 members of the Beach Athletic Fund, was just to do that. If you can do $49, great. If you can do $49,000, great. But whatever you can do to support our student athletes and give back to the program, it will go further this year than it ever has. And we know that just because of the reality of the environment we're in. We also have a lot of hope. These guys, especially on this team, have been extremely resilient. They've been through a lot. And having been there and having stood in front of them when we had to deliver the bad news about the season, just like Petey said, these guys handled it as you would think a professional would, incredibly mature, a great group. And so if there's anyone to invest in, boy, I would say this group and of course, all of our student athletes to invest in those student athletes through the drive to 4,900.
All right. Hey, Coach, we got another question from you here. So folks want to know what made this team so resilient and successful in 2020. Was there something in this group of guys that just came together? What really brought it on for you?
Well, they're good. They're and I've said this in a couple interviews that I've had. It starts with these guys. They're good players. I mean, the coaches that were here before us did a good job in recruiting really good players, and they're good kids. And so, we've all been part of some tough years and a tough season and those type of things. And sometimes when that happens, things just spiral. So you can't look back and say, oh, this tough season. I felt like, if anything, having a season that they came off of really had them grow as people. And I feel like when we got here, we just wanted to put them in a positive environment. We wanted to, number one, make them, understand that, hey, we're here to, and we're going to be behind you, and we're going to have your backs, and we're going to let you, we want to put a positive mojo on this thing moving forward. And so again, I just feel like, we got these guys to to kind of foam at the mouth and want them to come back hungry, put them in a positive environment. They were good players already, and just kind of paint a blueprint. I thought we communicated with them well. We got to understand them in a quick amount of time, how each individual, how we can relate to them and how we can get them to go. And then as a team, just get them to believe that, number one, they are good. They are good players. If you're a baseball player at Long Beach State, you're one of the best players in the country. So that was never, the talent part of it was never the issue at all. It was just a matter of getting 35 guys on the right track and getting them to believe that, number one, that they're good and we're going to play good baseball and make good decisions and good choices on and off the field and respect each other and be coachable and then from our side of it to get their trust is to communicate with them and really have their best interests at heart, and I believe that we do as a coaching staff for sure, and let them go out there and play. I think we always say we're going to grind on these guys all fall and get in there, and we want as coaches that once we start the season, we let them go and we let them play, and we're going to give a couple signs and that's about it, and let these guys play and let them have freedom and let them be who they are and have energy. And that's the one thing we talk about a lot is controlling what we can control. We can control our energy. We can control how we are in the dugout and how we run bases hard and how we, how we talk to people and how we do those things. So all those controllable things, I feel like we did a really good job. And as you can see, the energy was huge. I felt like, our dugout was always up. I felt like no matter what the scenario was, what the situation was, they were always, always had energy, and it just kind of, we got a couple big wins in there, and it just kind of, skyrocketed into confidence and them playing good baseball. And obviously the support was unbelievable. Everybody on here, we can't thank you guys enough for all of your support and your energy, because those games were just fun. It was just such a fun atmosphere. And I would, every now and then grab Petey and grab Danny and say, God, I mean, look at this crowd and look at this energy that is going on here. And our guys fed off of that for sure. So I was, this was very, very exciting, and we are bummed out that it couldn't, continue. But you know what? I'm excited of what the direction of this program is. There's energy. We have great leaders and guys that are coming back that understand what we're trying to do and what we want to do, and that's going to play a huge role in the new class coming in and beyond this. So, like I said, I mean, the short answer is they're good players and they're good kids, and I felt like we just need to give them a good blueprint to make them successful, and they did the rest. That's for sure.
Well, there's an extended answer to that question, and it's that guy with the white shirt and the black hat on. He's pretty darn responsible for changing a lot of this culture and their attitudes and enhancing. He's right; they are great players, but he did a great job of getting the most out of them. So there's an extended answer to that question.
I can't echo that enough. How much time and effort Coach put into making sure that this team and these guys were having fun every day at the field, but also a great complement of competitiveness and expecting to win and dominate every time that they step foot on the field, and gave them belief that they could beat anybody, regardless of circumstance or anything. So a lot of that happens from within, and it starts at the top with the guy that's leading your program.
Appreciate it.
Coach, we got a couple questions here from Arlene, Walter, and Marilyn Bowl. They want to know, how many new players are you anticipating this fall from high school, junior college, or other programs?
Yeah, and again, a lot of that depends on what's going to happen here with the draft. I mean, we're looking at we're looking at about 15 guys that we have, and scholarship and recruited walk-ons as well. The one thing we are going to do, and I will say this, and the people that are on here, seem to be they are our kind of our closest fans and the biggest part of what we're doing here. But we've always had a bigger class come in, meaning we've always started the fall with you have 35 guys on your roster, but we've always started the fall with more than that. We're into that, maybe the 40 or 41, 42 for a couple different reasons. Number one, you never know what's going to happen when it comes to injuries or whatever. You also with the draft, you don't know what's going to happen. And so you want to make sure you're prepared for that. Red shirting is something that we would do too with guys that aren't ready. But what we do is we create competition. So that's what I like to do is we create competition from within our program. And so that way, every single year, guys are competing not only to make the team, but get that starting spot or whatever. So we're always, and I'm not saying this is going to be a different year and it's going to be a weird year because of having the other class coming in and having 2 freshman classes, and those type of things are going to make it a little bit more than it's ever been. And then the draft, or lack of the draft, in the sense of you look at our current roster, and there's some juniors that if you had 40 rounds, and it still may happen, but you have 40 rounds, and you're looking at some of our, even our juniors that would probably get drafted and potentially sign, as well as some of our incoming guys. We have junior college guys that are potential draft picks. You have high school guys that are potential draft picks. So now if it stays at 5 rounds, now you're looking at a bigger class. And so, I guess we'll see what happens. We'll probably start the fall, bigger than normal with in the mid 40s, even close to 50, which is crazy. But again, how you manage that is, you're going to keep 35 plus your 7 seniors if they do come back, and then some guys may redshirt, and some guys that want to play right away, and see where they are, and see that we do have older guys coming back, because remember, if it affects, you got guys that have been waiting in the wings for their turn, right? And now you got seniors back, and so some guys may want to play, and they want to develop and get better. And so those are some things, and those are conversations that we're definitely having and going to continue to have. So that's a kind of a long answer, but we don't have the specific number just yet, based off of, we don't know what's going to happen with the draft and what's going to happen moving forward with some of these guys that have some thoughts as to hey, we weren't counting on another class or seniors coming back. I may want to think about this again. And so those are conversations that we're still having to this day.
Coach, and then to add to that, are you guys being contacted by scouts for pro teams regarding guys on our current team for draft status?
Yes, the answer is yes. And they were, the MLB scouts were, they couldn't contact any coaches, or they couldn't contact any players up until, I believe it was 2 or 3 days ago. And I finally got a text message. From a couple of scouts saying that they could reach out now, and they could talk, and they can do that. And so I've been on the phone with scouts, just talking about how this thing's going to play out. And they still don't know what's going to happen. I just got off the phone right before this phone call, and he doesn't know if it's going to be 5 rounds, 10 rounds, or even 40 rounds. And so that's up in the air. But yes, I've been in contact with a lot of scouts these last couple of days, just talking about our players, our current players, and some of our incoming players as well.
Coach, can we circle back here right before we got 2 quick questions here before we wrap up, but wanted to circle back to how you guys are connecting with our current players, just for folks that joined us late.
Yeah, so we've been connecting with our players via conference call. So we've done a conference call every week, and just kind of giving them updates on everything, updating them on the NCAA, updating them, making sure that they're taking care of their classroom or not the classroom, but the virtual teaching and online courses, giving them an update on summer ball. I think that's another big thing that potentially is not, and I will, I'm going to have a conversation today. Me and Rob will have a conversation today, and Andy as well, about summer ball, because, again, this is about the student athlete and making sure that we take care of these guys. And I know one summer league has already canceled their season. And so, my thought is regardless if summer baseball happens or not, is it the safest, thing for our guys to go out, whether they're playing in Bethesda, Maryland, or the Cape Cod, and everybody wants to do that and do those things. But is this, we have to have a serious discussion on our own, regardless of if these leagues have the summer or not, what's going to be the best thing to do and the safest and healthiest thing to do for our current team. So that's something that we're going to talk about today. We just, communicating, via, FaceTime or, our conference calls and stuff. And so it's been good. It's obviously given us a lot of time to start getting ready for, the fall and their classes and what they're going to take. And so, we're just trying to make it all work and make it all happen. And it's been fine so far.
And then one last question here. This is from Jeremy Harris, who's going to be the Chamber of Commerce president here soon. And he's, as we know, the Chamber of Commerce is in charge of the weather. So Jeremy, not sure you did a great job today, but just want to give you a hard time there. But Coach, are there any challenges that you guys are facing right now that the community can help you guys with?
Well, I am so thankful. We are so thankful with the support of the community. We've done this a long time. This is my 19th year of coaching, and I got to play in some pretty cool places, 2 years at Arizona State and 3 years at Pepperdine as well. And I have just never been part of a community that backs its athletic programs, and specifically for us, our baseball program, like our Long Beach State community. And so you guys have done everything that we can imagine, and in our first year too, because this first year is always a difficult year, and more for the players. I mean, you're talking 18 to 22, 35, 18 to 22 year olds, with the new coaching staff. It's a lot of uncertainty. They're nervous. Families are nervous, what's going to happen and who's coming in and all those things. And so, just the support that we had and have currently with the community and all the fans. I mean, it's a special place, and which is why, this is a dream of ours as a coaching staff, to be part of something this special, and the tradition and the history, and we want to do it the right way. We want our players to be not only good and get a lot of wins on the baseball field, but we're growing people, and we want them to be successful when they leave this program in every aspect of it, not just on the baseball field, but how they are in the community and how they are as husbands and fathers and how they are in the business world. And that's a huge part of what we do in the development of what goes on in within our program. And so, I think that we're all in this thing together. I think it's bigger than baseball. I really do. I think this is a time where, we talk about, your health and living every day. I mean, it's crazy what's going on. And so right now baseball's on hold, and we have to make sure that everybody's healthy and staying safe, and we're communicating, and it's not easy to stay at home all day. I mean, we have to, find ways to be creative and stay busy. And so we're doing that the best we can. And I know our players are itching to get on the field and work out and be together again. But again, it's a lot bigger right now than just baseball. So we're working through it, and we'll get through it. And I can't wait to get, back on campus and get these guys here and get back to work. But for now, we just gotta take care of ourselves for sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to open it up to any of the panelists that we have for any last second statements before we make sure everybody gets back to their work from home situation. So, do you guys have anything?
Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you. Stay healthy and safe.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all for coming. And we're going to start doing this on Mondays just to get everybody's week set off right. Be sure you go to Polly's Coffee. They're still open. They host us whenever we do this in person, but they are still open for to-go orders. So be sure you give them a shout out on 2nd Street in Belmont Shore. All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.